All right, there we go. All right, welcome to my build, July 20th, 2022. Our next my build is August 17th. And of course, as usual, it is featuring you. So we rely on you to send your photos in and give us something to talk about. It doesn't have to be the best thing in the world, doesn't have to be the worst thing in the world. Maybe it's something you learned something from or something you found at a flea market somewhere and just wanted to share it. But all right, we'll go ahead. And of course, that's me. And I was just looking at 611 and it's still sitting up at Strasbourg getting some work done on it, in case anybody was curious about where the old 611 is. All right, now we'll go on to Greg. You up, Greg?
Yep, I'm here.
All righty.
Okay, what I want to tell you about is sometimes when you're working with a kit, you might find something that seems a little funny, a little odd, especially if it's a new kit and you haven't done one like it before. And I found something here, not soon enough to fix it before I was working with it, but soon enough to fix it before it was too late to fix it. The kit is a really nice general store made by a company called Microscale Models. They don't have a lot of kits out and they don't have this one available anymore. I'm building it for a customer, but it's a wonderful kit. You can see everything that's included in the kit there, all of those pieces, and it's very well engineered. A lot of walls that have slots to hold other parts. Next slide, please. This shows the walls and the floor that they go into. And you can see I have marked on the floor, there's a couple little notches, and that's where this lower part of this one sidewall go into. The large openings are for freight doors, the small openings for man doors. And I thought, well, you know, everything else fits together, all the slots and tabs and everything seem okay, and that worked real well. And then I glued the building after I painted the walls and did a little bit of bracing and some other stuff. I glued all the building together and glued the walls to the floor. Next slide, please. But one thing I noticed was that the man doors came all the way down to the top of the foundation, and that's where the decking for the siding is supposed to go. But the little notches that were part of the floor keep the freight doors from coming all the way down. And I thought, well, that doesn't quite look right. You know, there's so many other pieces of this kit. I was wondering, are they going to find some way to get around that? And I went through all the rest of the instructions and there was no way around it that I could see. So what I did, as you can see in the bottom photo, I sliced off those little tabs that were sticking out and that helped locate that wall. Next slide, please. And that allowed me to bring the freight door all the way down to the foundation as well. And you can see I have one that's fixed and the other one that I still need to fix. And then I was going to leave a little opening at the top. So I just put in a little filler strip that matched the siding. And I'm much further along with the kit now. I'm not done with it, but I now see that if I had built it the way they had it, the freight doors were just a little too high. I'd have had to somehow disguise the fact that the floor was sitting there. And, you know, freight doors, you want to be able to roll stuff in. So I'm glad I found this at a point in the kit where I was still able to correct it. If I glued it to that foundation, it would have been very difficult at that point. So that's all I have to say about this. Thank you, Chris.
Sure thing. Thanks, Greg. Any questions for Greg on that before we move on?
Greg, who is the company again?
It's called Microscale, and I haven't found out yet if they have any connection with Microscale decals.
I don't believe they do. This is Don Reed. He used to be at Timonium. I haven't seen him there in a couple of years, but last time I saw him there was pre-COVID, put it that way.
Okay.
But
is he still in business? Do you know, Chris?
He is, but I think he sells over Etsy, and he's only got a couple kits that are available now. Last time I had talked to him, he was talking about retiring and was trying to trying to basically cobble up kits from parts that he had laying around through the years.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's too bad. That's too bad. Anybody?
Yeah, he's
good?
got some neat kits that I'd like to try. In fact, I've got a couple of them in the basement that I haven't started yet, and I think I've got maybe one or two others that I did build.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anything else for Greg? All right, we'll move on to Bob Farquhar. You up, Bob?
Yes.
Redid your slide a little bit here.
All right.
All
There we
right.
go. This is a HO scale kit from Burr Mills. It's called Clark's Wood Products. And this is partial build right now. There's still a lot of work to do. I have to do the lighting and the details and so on, and a base of some sort. But that's where I am right now. Thank you, Chris.
All right. Yeah, looks like it's pretty complete to me, but
Well, there's a lot to do yet.
yeah. All right. So I guess hopefully next month we'll see the rest of it.
You got it.
All right. Sounds good.
That's the one named after Clark Koenig MMR, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is.
Yep.
I know I'm doing it with a different name to it. I'm going to use his name, but he doesn't know what I'm doing yet.
You thought it was named after Clark Koenig.
Yes.
Yep. All right. Any questions for Bob before we move on? All right. So we'll go ahead and move on to Jeff Jordan. Yep, Jeff.
I'm here.
All right.
So let's see, here we go. Yeah, this is my new water tower. It started life as an Altoona Model Works kit, but I found it hard to find a narrow gauge O-scale water tank that did everything I wanted. And their standard gauge tank was as close as I could get. And so I made a number of modifications to turn it into a narrow gauge kit. One, of course, shortening the legs on the tank. And then also the kit comes with a very elaborate hydrocal plaster base with massive simulated concrete footings, which are way, way too much for a narrow gauge railroad. And so studying photos of the Rio Grande Southern, you can see it's just got wood blocks underneath each leg. So I did that. And they were also a little thin on the detail on the water spout. So in the center there, I've added the valve mechanism that when you pull the spout down, it opens the valve. And you can barely see in the photo, there are little rungs on that, which again was based upon a photograph from the Rio Grande Southern. And of course, the big difference is I deleted the fishing line for the tank bands and replaced it with strap style tank bands. I ended up using evergreen styrene, very thin strips in several different sizes. In the prototype, they were different sizes, wider at the bottom and narrower at the top. And so I wrapped the tank with those bands and scratch built the little tensioners you can see there in the right-hand photograph. And then also replaced the ladder. Mount Albert has just come out up at the Harrisburg show. They were selling a beautiful ladder kit. And so that's one of the Mount Albert ladders substituted for the kit's somewhat heavyish ladder. And then the finish of the tank was really kind of, well, it's a new technique for me. The kit warns you that the wrapper is rather thin and be careful about using water-based paints, and they want you to use Floquil. Well, I haven't had any Floquil in a long time. And so instead, I primed it thoroughly twice with the Tamiya primer, which is a terrific spray can primer, and then painted it with a water-based paint, but I thinned it. And it worked out great because you see what it's done is a little bit of the primer is showing through, and it gives you that look of the prototype photographs of the stains of the minerals coming through the cracks in the tank. and giving you that mottled stained appearance. It couldn't have come out better. It was in instructions for a different kit about how to just make your siding look weathered. And in this case, it made the sides of the tank look like it had the mineral deposits. The wood is stained with hunter line stains, which I'm really become a great fan of. And so both the wood base and also the shingles on the roof are done with different hunter line stains. I think we've got another 2 photos of it. If we go to the next slide.
Yep.
Here
Oh
we go.
yeah, there's where all your detail shows right there on
Yeah,
that
that right-hand photo really brings out, you can see the valve on the spout with the rungs. You can see how neatly that all rigs out, and most of that rigging came with the kit. You just had to very carefully drill out the little pulleys and drill out the weights, and all fit in very nicely. Because everything else there is from the kit except for the Mount Albert ladder, which I added and braced. But the other odds and ends, including the ball on the top, all come with the kit. And then over there on the left is it's in place that though you need to kind of disregard the cityscape in the background, the station and the tank is kind of a little vignette of Rico, Colorado. But it also brings me to my question for the night, which is, I'm doing several vignettes of areas like Rico and also Vance Junction. And if you look at the photographs of the Colorado desert Southwest, there's no grass. Everything is kind of dry and dirty. And I am kind of scratching my head right now to try and figure out how to simulate the surface texture with no grass, and just to give me the texture of dirt. And I'm curious what people do when they want to do just an expanse of dirt. Some of this will be cinders because it's the station, but to just get the kind of loose, dirty area with just the barest weed here or there, but otherwise, ground foam, which I used to use copious amounts of, isn't going to work in the desert Southwest.
If you go to Home Depot, you can pick up tile grout in multitude of colors and get the unsanded one.
Okay.
And it lays down beautifully. You can lay it down with matte varnish or whatever you want, whatever you use to hold down your ground scenery. And you just touch up the color with a little bit of Tamiya paints, thinned out really thin, really thin.
And the grout will give you a texture like soil?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I got to try it.
You can blend them together to get different colors. It's your option. I think there's about 72 different colors.
I'll have to look at that. The station building, incidentally, is going to be featured in the future. I haven't finished it yet. Among other things, it still needs to be weathered. But that started life as the Lionel Rico Depot. And again, I can't leave any kit alone. It's been modified. It's been painted with appropriate paint colors, but I'm adding some more detail. I need to weather it some more. And I've put a partial interior in it, and I'll show that in the future, my build.
Cool.
Jeff, Larry McDonald here in Toronto. I'm with a group of narrow gaugers, and an awful lot, including me at one point, did layouts of Colorado, and very large layouts. And the very first thing after the plaster we would apply, we went and got play sand at Home Depot for one place, but most of those type of stores have it. And we'd sift it and apply that down. And that gave you a ground cover, very rough, with a lot of the stones like in Colorado that work up through with the frost. And then you can, if you want to then, do some vegetation and some other finer sands or any other materials, you can do that, apply that on top. So it's the basic thing of just applying a course after another course, but we always use that as our first course. It's a good simulation of Earth, but with all the little stones that you find in Colorado, and work from there. And it's cheap. Of course, a bag of play sand will cover quite a bit of layout.
Since that's just a very fine sand.
Yeah, it's not like beach sand. The stuff that we've picked up here, I don't know, maybe wherever the Home Depots across the country might get it, but it had little fine pebbles in, round pebbles, small,
Okay.
but it wasn't fine sand like you'd find on a very nice beach, which, you know, sand has got all like sharp little edges, but and they lock a bit, but that's what I don't know how many people have used it, and people down through the states that were associated with us.
Is that called play sand?
It was called play sand up here, the bags that we picked up. And I was wondering, because it wouldn't be the kind of sand I would be expecting to put in a, you know, a play box outside. for the
Huh,
kids.
okay.
But,
'Cause that's what I was thinking, is that you were describing was sandbox sand.
yeah. That's what I think it's meant for. But
Okay.
like I say, it does have very small little pebbles, stones.
Larry, do you color it after that? After you lay it down?
You can, you put it down, of course, with just white glue, and a mixture of white glue and water.
Right.
Sometimes if you want to blend it compared to your rock, and so it looks like some of the rock over you know, thousands of years has broken down, and the sediment, and you could airbrush if you want, or
Yep.
just taking a brush mixed with acrylic paints and thin it right down and go over that.
I think that would be more like a river sand rather than a beach sand.
Yes, that's correct. That's where, you know, that's what I find confused, but exactly, it's more like a river sand. Because all the little pebbles are round, and like you find.
Various sizes.
Yeah, they're very small, and you know, they're in scale for what we want to do. Well, okay, we're in O scale. And so it works good for O scale, but all you have to do, I think, if you were in HO, is sift it and just, you know, take the finer parts. Just thought I'd throw that in for you.
Cool. Well, thanks for sharing. Any more questions for Jeff before we move on? All right. I think
Tony Dixon has a question, Chris.
Oh, okay.
Not so much a question, but a recommendation. If you're shooting for Arizona, try Arizona Rock and Mineral Corporation. They have dirts and other materials for ballast and landscape cover. And I believe they actually have sifted desert dirt that is sifted to a fine powder for doing your landscaping in appropriate colors.
That's Arizona. What was the name? Arizona?
Rock and Mineral, ARM.
Got it. Thank you.
I use their ballast because they have ballasts available from all over the country. And I've purchased other products from them, and they specifically have some different colors of desert ground cover.
All right. Cool. Thanks for sharing that. It's
So
Makes
Jeff,
sense.
once you decide what you're gonna use and do it, we'd love to see some of your ground cover.
oh, he muted himself.
Absolutely. Yes. I'm getting tired of the plywood plains here. And so I probably one of the next projects is going to be to get some ground cover going here and Rico and also at Vance Junction.
Cool.
So I'm definitely going to pay a visit either Lowe's or Home Depot and collect some materials.
Great.
Right, you're doing the RGS, aren't you?
Yes,
Right.
as
and
you can
know-
see the left-hand side there,
Yeah,
that's a Bachmann ON30 locomotive that I've
Right.
lettered for RGS.
when you look at the books for the RGS, they were the poor railroad in Colorado compared to the Denver Reed Grand Western. So Denver Reed Grand Western had real ties. The RGS got a local sawmill just to cut lumber. And when it went to ballasting, they didn't treat it. It wasn't treated with homosote, or not homosote, but creosote.
Creosote.
And when they ballasted, they just ballasted between the center of the rails, and it petered out. So most times the full end of the tie is exposed and not set by stone. That's just something if you're modeling in the RGS.
Yeah, indeed, since this photograph was taken, one of the things I've noticed from the photographs is that the track pretty much seems to be at ground level as opposed to up on a ballast heap.
That's
And
right.
therefore, I have filled in the areas so that using foam sheet to raise up the area around the track. So now it actually does not have that contoured ballast look. The ties are basically now at ground level. And then as I add the scenic materials, the track level and the ground level will run right together.
Right.
So the one thing I have noticed, and somebody mentioned in the comments that the chat, that there have been a number of colorized photographs of the RGS on Facebook, but they're too green. People are colorizing it and making the ground look much more green than it really is. I'm fortunate that I've collected several books that have the color photos that were taken in the last few years of the operation of the railroad when they were doing the rail fan specials. And those color photos give you a much better sense of what the colors really look like. And you see the pictures around Vance Junction was a popular location. There are plenty of photos around Vance Junction. You can see how bare it is. And there's also photos around Rico. And again, it's just dirt.
Are you near a steam train operation? Like Strasburg or someplace like that?
I'm in Northwest Virginia. I'm up in the Strasburg area occasionally.
Right. Every time our fellows would go down there, we'd go into the ash pits. I would collect ash, and I'd also go and get all the cinders. And you don't want the big ones. You just get the little fine ones and sift them when you get home. But it takes a couple of pails or bags, and they don't mind. And the real thing, nothing like the real thing. So in my ash pits, I have real ash that came out of a locomotive and cinders.
Hey, Jeff.
And for a poor man's railroad, that's what they used for ballast in some places.
Yep. Yeah, you see that especially in the yards.
Yes.
Like up at Ridgeway. It appears that the whole yard is ballasted with cinders.
Correct.
Jeff, if you go to that ARM site, look for their low desert earth, I guess you'd call it, or ground. They actually have a product that I think would probably hit just exactly what you're looking for. It's kind of a combination of fine sand, almost a dust level, and then larger pieces. And they're not all round because he crushes it. But it's not like it's sifted for ballast. It's like all different sizes mixed together. And it really works great. I even use it on my N scale. It's a little coarse for that. A lot of places.
I've got the O scale. You can tolerate a bit of coarseness. So
yeah, this is called low desert soil.
A low desert soil. Got it. I'm going to definitely check it out.
It's their product 110-03. And it has a very neutral color kind of, which is probably what you're looking for.
I'm definitely going to take a look at it. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. I was just looking at the Arizona Rock website. There's a lot of stuff on there. So it might be worth a look for anybody that hasn't been there before. I'd heard of it. I just never spent any time looking into it in depth at all. So, all right. Any more questions for Jeff or comments?
Just one more comment from me, if I may.
Sure.
It's ARM is one of the few places where I can still get a ballast that's sized for N scale. Most places only have HO anymore, and that's way too coarse. So I use them primarily for their N scale product, but it's useful in other stuff too.
All right. All right, anything else for Jeff?
David, do you know who owns that company?
Not offhand, but if you look at his website, he gives a pretty good rundown of who he is and what he is and how he operates and all that stuff.
It's Arizona Rock and Mineral.
Yeah,
Got it.
Yep.
it's see if I can get you. It's well, go to armballast.com. That's his actual website.
Thanks.
All right. Any more comments or questions? All right, with that, I guess we'll move on to Alan Rogers. Alan, I need to move your picture over to the other side. We'll get that.
I'm sure it'll be fine. All right, well, if you want to go to the next slide, Chris. These two buildings I'm featuring tonight, actually, I've written articles about the barn that you're looking at, and I'm going to go ahead and put the link up for everybody. I've got a page at thevillagecollectors.com, and it's entitled Scratch Built. So I just threw an article up there about this barn. It's entitled Let's Build a Barn. And the thrust of the articles over there, by the way, that community, the village collectors are the people that collect the Lemax and other Christmas buildings and have village scenes and also Halloween. In fact, Greg is part of the Halloween community, and they are 1/4-inch scale or close to it. So I'm trying to get these folks to learn how to scratch build an O scale and put these things with their collections. So this is a barn outside Poplar, California. It's north of me about 60 some odd miles in the Central Valley. And here in the Central Valley in California, there were these barns all over the place. These pictures were taken about 25 years ago. And you can see that the barn was quite decrepit at that point. And I remember when I was measuring it and photographing it, I did not walk inside. And I'm pretty sure it's probably not with us anymore. But if you want to go to the next slide, Chris, I also I wrote an article about making the homemade roofing material out of drink cans. Even though the barn had a shake roof, I wanted a tin roof on it because I thought it looked cool. And you're also looking at a side elevation of the barn, and those are coffee stirrers that are pre-stained. So what I'm trying to get these people to do at that website is scratch build using common household items that they probably have around the house. So if you want to go to the next slide, Chris. That's another shot of the barn, and then segueing to my cat, Midge, who that's the way she looks over there on the right now next to my computer. On the left, Midge was a kitten, and this was about 5 years ago, and here she's seen, I caught her emerging from tunnel number 2 on my layout. So if you want to go to the next slide, this is a Quonset hut that I wanted to model. The left-hand corner is a building here in Bakersfield, and I wanted to measure that and model it. And you're looking at the right-hand side. You're looking inside there at the drink cans that I used to make my model. And I have kind of a funny story behind these. I don't drink, although at this stage in life, I do drink mineral water in the cans. So I have cans now for mineral water, but I didn't have any cans at the time. So I went down to the local recycler place and I found a street person that wanted to turn their cans in. And I said, hey, would it be okay if I bought your cans from you? Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah, I'll give you all the cans you want. So these are some of the cans I bought from him. So if you want to go to the next slide. So that's the finished model. And the reason you saw Midge the cat is not only did she come out of the tunnel on the layout, she got inside the Quonset hut. She, after tearing the front doors off of it, then she tried to remove the lights. So just recently, I remade the front doors and I hooked the lights back up, and that's the way it looks on my layout now. But I'll tell you, it's a rare thing for a cat to be compatible with the model railroad layout. And not only does Midge destroy things if I let her in that room, I have another cat, Tigger, and he bit the cross off of St. Francis Church one day, so I don't let him in there either. I don't know if we have any more slides, Chris. That might be it.
Yeah, there's well, that's it. That's the I marked this series with an X down at the bottom signifying the last one. So
Well, I'm
Alan,
about to write an article about let's build a Quonset hut. So that's going to go up on that website that I just talked about. So thank you very much.
I got two questions for you, Alan.
Certainly.
First one, I understand the pop can. How do you emboss the ribs?
Well, you cut the ends off the cans
Yeah,
and basically end up with a flat piece of metal. And then I bought one of those paper crimpers that's made by Fiskars that scrapbookers use. You
okay.
can buy those at Michael's or at Hobby Lobby. And the trick then is you've got to heat this piece of metal up on your gas stove. An electric range will not work for this. It has to be a gas flame. And you have to get it to just the right temperature. If it's too cold, it's not going to crimp. If it gets too hot, it's just going to catch on fire. So it's a little bit of a tightrope there, a little scary. You want a pail of cold water nearby that you can dump it in when it's done. And you only run it through there one time. You get one chance. If it doesn't turn out right, you have to discard it and start all over.
And oven mitts, of course.
That's right. It's a good idea.
Next question. The Texaco sign. How do you print that on there? Or how is that on there?
Well, I got on the web, to be honest with you. Now, I have to say, with my kit business, I do not sell copyrighted signs in my kits. I mean, there are these copyright laws and trademark laws. This was for my personal use, so I got online.
Right.
I got an image of that, and I just used my inkjet copier, copied it on clear decal film, and that's how I did that.
Okay. Because generally what has been done in the hobby is they print it on like Xerox paper and you rub the back off until it's really thin.
Mhm.
Well, I have a new process using tissue paper and it works beautifully. And you run it through an inkjet printer and you never have to worry about rubbing through or burning through the sign to the front because it's so thin already.
Wow.
My pet peeve was when you see some of these signs in HO especially, and you can see the edge of the paper. And if you really scale it, you want to be real nitpicker about it. That sign is about 2.5 inches thick in real life, right? So
Mhm. Great
Anyway.
idea, Ralph. Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
sure thing. Thanks. Any more questions for Alan? All right. Yeah, I do like how the sign the sign sits on there. That looks
It
really
does.
nice.
super.
And this is O scale.
It sure is.
Okay. All right. Any more questions for Alan before we move on?
I'd love to see Alan stand there over that open gas flame, trying to decide whether it's ready to be taken off or not.
Well, I did a presentation for our local NMRA division, and I made a video, and they got to see me actually do all that, which was kind of fun.
I tell you, you still have that video?
I believe I do. I can send it to you.
I'd love to see it sometime on the show. Yeah, I really would, because I think that's such a neat idea, and the material basically is free.
That's right. I'll tell you though, the only downside is when you take the tops and bottoms of the cans to the recycler, just these bags full of tops and bottoms, they look at you very quizzically.
Mm. All right. Any more questions for Alan? All right, we'll move on to our last modeler for tonight, and it's Gary Shergold. You up, Gary?
Yes, Chris, how are you?
All right, good.
What we have here is I'm really big on Heinz pickle cars. And I have on my layout a pickle factory where they do the processing and do the pickling. And what happened one time was the railroad, for some reason, couldn't make the delivery, and it was an emergency delivery. So the foreman got together, he talked to the workers, and overnight they put together a pickle car that turned into be a transport truck trailer. And the bottom photo shows the results of their work. All kidding aside, the sides were given to me by a very good friend of mine, Milt Moore. Some of you may know him. He's the creator of the cartoons that were in the NMR magazine for a long time. And he sent these to me, the two sides. And what I had done was scratch built the rest of the model and made it into a trailer. And the cab was painted, CN decals put on it. And it's ready to ship pickles.
It's a neat model, Gary.
Thank you. Should be
Any
another.
idea who the manufacturer was on the car?
No, I have no idea. It was one of the transport trucks I had in my collection. And as I say, I did a little bit of work on it, painted it, and I'm a big CN fan, so it ended up becoming a CN transport truck.
I think now those are Thurn cars. And there was quite a few around, say, 15 years ago or so.
Yeah, I think there are a couple more photos. Go to those.
Yeah, this shows the two different sides, the racks at the back, hold it all together. The whole car is made out of styrene, or the trailer. It's all styrene, painted.
All right. What scale is this?
It's HO.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it came out pretty neat. I was surprised at how well the trailer fit on top, but or the car sat on top of the trailer. But did you kit bash the trailer?
I'm sorry?
Did you kit bash the trailer?
Yeah, the
Okay.
trailer is scratch built with the exception of the sides. Those are the sides off an original pickle car.
Okay. All right.
And it was free.
Yes.
Yes, it was free.
All right. Any questions for Gary?
Just wanted to mention there, Chris, that I don't know if the people remember Milt Moore. Milt's in Michigan with the Redford Model Railroad Club, and he's the creator of Thumbs. That cartoon was in the NMR magazine for a long time.
Okay. All right. Okay. Any more questions or comments? All right. I guess that will be about it. Our next, thanks to everyone that participated tonight. And our next build is August 17th, and it will be featuring you, of course. And to participate, go ahead and email me, railrunner130@hotmail.com. And if you have not participated in the past, please include a picture of yourself so we can put that up as your title card.